Have his way, good soul. Scammers are able to get away with their scams when they can successfully fool people in regards to their confusion over whether or not such an activity is a crime, and their ignorance on definitions of words, where the scammer is able to convince people that it's not a pyramid scam, it's a multi-level marketing company. Yeah, it's the same exact definition. But they think by changing the word, changing the definition of a word, will fool people into letting them get away with their crimes. And even in the church, there's the primary hymn, "Do what is right, let the consequences follow." Because the consequences for doing something right are supposed to be good consequences. There's supposed to be a chain reaction of good that follows from that first initial doing of good. And so we can then plug in deductively that if you do something wrong, there's going to be a chain reaction of events of compounded wrongs. And so if you commit a first cause crime, it's going to lead to other crimes being committed. And we mostly learn about this as a criminal has to cover up and lie about their crime in order to get away with it. So they compound crimes to that end. But there's others in regards to white-collar criminals for financial crimes. Mafia organizations, crime organizations take what's called protection money, where they tell people that we'll provide you protection beyond the law as long as you pay us money. And there's no guarantee that the people will be protected. They just have to do it, otherwise they get victimized for not being protected by the criminal organizations who are shorted the money. But then the criminal organizations take that illegal money and then they'll launder it through a legitimate business so that the money then becomes clean and no longer illegal, though the process is illegal. And so gambling institutions were created for that purpose of taking criminal money, laundering it through a gambling casino, and then comes back as clean to the original criminals. And so another crime is added if the federal government were to ever do their job and crack down on these criminal organizations. And then there's others that are included when you launder it through the stock market. There's other scams and financial crimes that can be involved with frauding in the stock market. Investment fraud, for example, and stock manipulation and other such things, insider trading, and so as Mormons we are instructed in the scripture passage to be innocent of crime and sin, yet be smart like the criminals so that we can defend ourselves from the criminals and their scams and crimes against us. We're not supposed to justify criminal behavior as being smart and outsmarting criminals. That's not the interpretation. It's so that you don't get scammed. So you have to learn these methods of criminal activity, learn the law, so that you don't get busted. For example, my cousin was arrested as a mule. All he thought was he was just delivering a package for his friends. Well, his friends used him as a mule. And despite his innocence, he went to prison. So, as much as Clint Eastwood makes it a great movie, it's still a crime. And it's unfortunate that friends use others in that regard. And I'm sure many of you have heard about the bishops here in Utah who've used their membership to invest in their scam operation, as the Mormons end up losing their money to the bishops. But the church themselves have taught this to Mormons, because the church has not been in trouble with the law. And when you get away with your crimes, you then teach your followers that such is not a crime, that such is okay to do. And so you get Mormons who get the idea, hey, I'm going to start up a pyramid scam. Call it multi-level marketing, because it's apparently illegal in Utah. It's because the church is involved in a pyramid scam. It's called missionary recruitment. But it stems from the initial causal crime of tithing. Yesterday, the Salt Lake Tribune posted an article about James Huntsman's appeal hearing set for November 15th. And the writer of the article, Tony something, is trying to ask the question, is James Huntsman merely a dissident, and thus we can ignore his fraud claim? Or is his case of fraud legitimate? It doesn't matter. He's making an accusation of fraud. It has to be heard out. And if there is no evidence of fraud, then fine, he loses. But I've told you he blew it already. He's calling tithing a donation, and that automatically loses his argument. Doesn't matter what the church uses donations for, as long as they use donations. And so to invest it in the City Creek Mall then would not be a problem. It would not be fraud. Huntsman would just be a whiny little bee for not liking the manner in which the church spent his donations. But tithing is not a donation. It is a debt. And I should read you from an Ensign article, First Presidency Statement by Marion G. Romney in 1980 in June, that I submitted to my court filing today. Oh, right, I moved it. Oops. Okay. He says, in his talk that I took out parts of, he says, tithing is not a free will offering. The church's response to James Huntsman was that it's a free will offering. Oops. And James isn't smart enough to tell his lawyers that it's not a free will offering and refer him to Marion G. Romney's talk, etc., etc. James just is out of his league. He's just a spoiled billionaire who has no clue what he's involved with. It is a debt. Oh? We have a debt to God? Payment of which brings great blessings. This is the protection racket. Tony Soprano goes around saying, hey, you haven't paid your debt for the protection money. And, if you pay the debt, you'll be blessed by your business not getting burned down. And so, here's Marion G. Romney and the second counselor to the first presidency, pulling the old Tony Soprano in conference. Or whatever. I guess it's just the first presidency statement posted in the June Ensign, 1980. Tithing is a debt which everyone owes to the Lord. Are you familiar with the definition of atonement? It's reparations paid for somebody who's been wronged. In religion, for Christianity especially, Jesus is supposedly had paid our debt. He atoned for us. And here the church is telling Mormons in their practice of our being forced to pay tithing that it's to pay back Jesus for his atonement of us. Are you unfamiliar with the definition of a scam? A criminal scam. This is it. But here's more on the protection racket. Oh man, the payment of tithing is also worthwhile as fire insurance. Oops. Protection from the day that shall burn as an oven, from Malachi. Through his prophets, the Lord has told us that incident to his second coming, there will be great conflagration. So in 2021, October General Conference last year, Nelson gets up at the pulpit of conference and declares, "These are the latter days." I should find that clip and put it in here. Because in that statement, he said Jesus has returned. Because Jesus is to return for the latter days, the specific time period. And so there's a whole bunch of appearances and events that are supposed to take place, which he's supposed to attend. Like Adam on Diamond, where Lucifer is in attendance with the priesthood of the church, giving Jesus the keys of government. Here's the key of the United States. Here's the key of France. Here's the key of Russia. Here's the key of England. Sorry, King Charles III. Oh my goodness. And if you're unfamiliar with my videos that has gone over where that came from, I refer you to The Way of Perfection by Joseph Fielding Smith Jr. Page 290 to 291 in the edition that I had shown to you. Oh my goodness. And so, tithing is a crime. And the consequences of paying your tithing have ripple effects. Because not only are you committing a pyramid scam because of the tithing crime by going on a mission, guess what happens to you women when you decide to marry in the temple? This is where it gets sad and dark and disturbing. And Mormons don't understand that it's a crime. because we're lied to. We were given different definitions, we were given different words, and for the most part, women have caught on when Benson changed obey to preside. Or hearken in the temple. And are even yet still fooled by Nelson changing it to obey God. As you missed the law of chastity change, and you haven't connected it to the sealing text, which ties directly to obey your husband in the first law of obedience in the temple ceremony. Women become property of their husbands, and in so doing, women are sex slaves. That's a crime. And if the woman is taken out of her state to another state where there's a temple to be sealed in, she's now been sex trafficked. As both the woman and the man have to pay the church to have the woman pimped out as a prostitute for her own marriage ceremony. Yay! See, here the pimp is getting a double dip from not only the guy who's paying for sex, but from the woman who's been pimped out as a prostitute. This is how criminal the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is. Because tithing is a crime. And the ripple effects, consequences, result in other additional crimes because of the first causal crime of tithing. And so, yes, there's all the other money laundering and financial crimes that the church is involved with through their LLC companies, Ensign Peak Advisors, etc. Through tax exemption, tax fraud, and money laundering, and other financial crimes, investment crimes, etc. But I hope you understand, as things are escalating here, and should finish up before somebody says something in the background. But I hope you understand, this is beyond just a church that's not true. This goes beyond a church that lies to its membership and to the world about how they're not true. This is a criminal organization. And so when the YouTube employee commits cyber terrorism to silence my voice, to shut down my video, my channels, banning my videos that had no reason to be banned, all for the purpose of committing crime against me. That is the continuation of crime that I'm talking about, from the church's first causal crime. And Mormons in the temple have to give loyalty oaths to protect the church from criminal prosecution from the United States. That's what it means. And all 5 of the laws of covenanting, the covenant path that Nelson calls it. And so apparently there was a guy upset with me who thought it was necessary to interrupt my video. Apparently I was talking too loud. I didn't catch what he said to me in his anger. I don't know if he's Mormon or not, but it doesn't matter. Again, you see the result. The church is the causal crime. He then took it upon himself to act out in anger and violence against me. It's 9 a.m., so it can't be because he was woken up from his sleep. Nonetheless, this is the danger of the church. This is the national security threat of the church. This is where my life has been ruined by the church. That I'm in constant state of jeopardy by the church. So, c'est la vie. As long as the church continues to get away with it, Mormons will continue to do it.